In this election, it appears to me that Alderman Scholter has anointed his successor, and that is another thing that I'm trying to avoid by not taking any campaign contributions. I want to be independent from all interest groups and just really have my only interest group be the ward. I don't want to take any campaign contributions. I just want to be dedicated to the ward. So thank you.
How does one finance a campaign without taking any campaign contributions? We all agree. We all agree.
It's very difficult. I have, yeah, I'm not a rich guy. And I've just been financing what little I've paid for out of my own pocket. It's honestly, I'm probably going to end up spending less than $1,000. To be honest, it's really just handing out little flyers and just word of mouth. I have a website too, and that's really it. So,
thank you very much, Mr. Reichel.
Thank you. Well, I unequivocally support the Shackman decree. My campaign manager, Alex Kanchowitz, is a Shackman hire driver at O'Hare Airport. In fact, busy tonight because he's going to be plowing off those runways, potentially even overnight. But we need to go further. With Mr. Daley gone, we have an opportunity to open up city government and to go through the past budgets over the last 5 to 10 years, item by item, forensic audit, and remove the waste, remove the patronage hired. Let's clean house here in Chicago. Now is the opportunity, and I envision myself as a leader amongst the new generation of aldermen that are going to lead this effort to clean up the city budget. And with all due respect, Mr. O'Donnell, you may not think that the Democratic machine in Chicago continues to hold its own, and you may not think that the machine is a barrier to moving forward and empowering working people in this city because you're an integral member thereof. But for the rest of us, the other 99% of the city, we do have a barrier in the existing political structures, and we do have to take this fight to City Hall and fight for the interest of workers, fight to maintain public control over the public domain, fight to stop the fire sale of public assets. This is a fight, and I want to empower you, the working people of this ward, by bringing this fight to City Hall on your behalf. Thank you very much. It's been a very difficult road to this point, running as an independent, as a Green candidate for Congress. You wouldn't believe the kind of stuff we face just getting our name on the ballot, getting our fair share of space in the public discourse, getting any sort of exposure, and a lot of that has to do with roadblocks put up by said machine. Thank you very much.
So you fully support Shackman's decree?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Filwar.
So, I'm in full support of the Shackman decree. I think, we need to take a step further. There's over 900 plus Shackman exempt positions in the city. Those positions are highly paid, and I think we have to take a look at, who we're paying, how those people got those jobs. And, one of the things that I've outlined in the questionnaires to the Chicago Tribune and the Sun-Times is that one of the budget cuts that I propose is to immediately institute a 15% pay reduction for all Shackman exempt positions. It's amazing that we talk about cutting the salaries of fire, police, and the teachers and all the other public servants, but when it comes to politically connected people, we're up in arms, or a lot of people in the inside are up in arms when we talk about cutting the salaries. And so to that end, as a way to lead this process, if I'm elected alderman, I'm going to cut my salary in half for the entire term. And the idea being that the current way of doing things is no longer sustainable. We aldermen report to 55 to 60,000 people. You have county commissioners that just make slightly more, or actually slightly less than current aldermen, and they report to about double that. So what we need to do is, if we're going to make these tough decisions going forward, restructure services, if we're going to make sure that they're sustainable going forward, then we all have to take a hit, and that begins with this aldermanic office. So it begins with 2 terms and cutting the salary in half, and I'm not going to raise money between elections. And as it relates to hiring, 15% pay reductions for all the Shackman exempt positions. There's roughly 900 of them. I estimate there's probably about $85 to $100 million worth of spending that goes there. So, you know, $15 to $20 million in savings plus pensions plus benefits is a significant amount in reducing that structural deficit.
Okay, thank you. Move along to the next question. The order of responses will be Mr. Pawar, Mr. Reichel, Mr. Jacks, and Mr. O'Donnell. It is estimated that the city can save $30 million per year by switching to a grid system rather than the current ward-based system for trash collection, street cleaning, and other basic services. Do you agree with this estimate of potential cost savings? And as alderman, which system would you support and why? Mr. Pawar, 2 minutes.
I think doing things in piecemeal, doing things ward by ward, is how we've been doing things for a long time. And you know, the 47th Ward is great. It's beautiful. That's why we moved here. We've got 6 L stops. We've got easy access to mass transit, to major arteries, road arteries, and you know, we have great schools. But what we also know is when we leave other neighborhoods behind, we have to come up with gimmicks like TIFs. So what I want to be able to do is restructure services, and I think grid-based service delivery is probably the right way to go. That's what other major metropolitan cities do. That may mean there may be some service reductions in the near term. We might not get street sweeping every day. It might be 3 times a week. But what we can do by doing that is protect our services in the long term. What we know is the current way of doing things is not sustainable. And so I agree. I think we probably can save 30 million by going to grid-based service delivery, but I think we can also save a lot more if we go line by line and identify how we actually staff these positions. And if we make the possible cut, if we make the right cuts, what I'm also telling you is we can reappropriate those services to help other services catch up. You know, things like recycling, it's not available to everyone in this ward. It's not available to people living in multifamily units or across the city. If we cut in one area, that doesn't mean we can't put money in others. It's all about looking at everything, pulling the budget apart and putting it back together in a responsible way. Thank you.
So one point of clarification there, that you do support switching to the grid system, and you do agree that it would save approximately $30 million?
I think it'll probably be more, and I think, you know, I think that we can even pilot this immediately by, you know, starting with 4 or 5 wards and neighboring wards and see whether we can generate those savings and move on to a larger citywide effort. Okay, you also hinted about service reductions. Do you think that if you went to the grid system that we here in the 47th Ward would be a net winner or a net loser if you switched? You know, I think it's hard to say. I think, you know, it's time to face reality. I think there might be some service reductions, and we might have to get used to that. I mean, this is a direct consequence of how we've been doing things, and if we want to protect services going forward so that we don't have draconian cuts, you know, Camden, New Jersey laid off 300 firefighters a couple weeks ago. If we want to see things like that, then we can continue doing things the old way. Or we can look in the mirror and say, look, we need to take stock of how we spend our dollars and rethink how we do things.
Thank you. Mr. Reichel.
I would also support going to the grid system, and I think that part of the reason that there are these built-in inefficiencies with the ward-based systems is most of the wards don't conform to the grid. We're actually kind of fortunate here in the 47th Ward to have a ward that kind of looks like a rectangle and somewhat at least corresponds to traditional neighborhood boundaries, Lincoln Square, North Center, Ravenswood. But that is not in any way, shape, or form the norm throughout the city, as I found while campaigning for Congress, going over 7 or 8 or 9 wards, some of which have very bizarre shapes. And again, the drawing of these maps comes down to patronage, comes down to clout, comes down to influential, powerful members of our society trying to draw up a map that'll suit them. Which goes back to the predominant theme of this campaign, which is to go to a community-based system of decision-making so that we're empowering working people, middle-class people to get involved in the decision-making process, and it isn't all behind some closed door. We're not continuing with the same system of powerful political figures making all of our decisions for us.